Now, YouTube ads is a platform that is built for scale, no question about it. If I were to have an issue with it, it would be its ad cost, especially when you compare it to something like Facebook and TikTok. But remember, Facebook and TikTok, people are there all the time and they're literally just scrolling and scroll and they're being entertained. There's no real other, no one's saying, hey, I want to find out how to tie a certain type of knot. Let me go to TikTok. No, you have nothing going on, you're on TikTok. And for whatever reason, maybe the engagement, the metrics, the data that they accumulate, it works very well for a different type of product. Now, YouTube ads, as I said, it's incredibly scalable. It is more expensive, but it works very well when you are trying to push a product that has the right fit and you're trying to find a large audience. So, YouTube ads, when do you scale? Simple, when things are working amazingly well. What does that mean? Let's just say you are spending a few $100s a day and your campaigns are working and you're barely hitting your profit. That's not the time to scale. That's the time to say, take a step back, really look at your offer and really find out how can you add more profit in the long term. Why do I say that? Whenever you scale any type of campaign in any type of traffic platform, your return is going to diminish, whether it be because of ad creative, exposure to your offer, and your ad costs going up. All of these things will happen, not necessarily at once at the same time, but they will happen. So because of that, just because you're barely making profit, that's not time to step on the pedal. That's the time to reassess and really try to squeeze as much juice as you can from your offer. Once you're getting returns that are substantially more than what you expected on your offer, that's when it's time to consider, okay, let's try scaling. Now, here are some mistakes that people make when scaling YouTube ads. The first thing they want to do is they want to make a lot of changes all the time. YouTube ads is a slower platform. It's not something that really lends itself to pushing bids on a continual basis throughout the day, making all these changes. Any change you make right now, you probably won't see it in the ad platform for a few hours. So let's just say, for example, I have a target CPA bid at $10 and I push it to $20. I may not see that traffic reflected in the reporting of the ad platform until maybe 3 hours later. But if an hour later I say, oh, this is not working, I'm just going to increase the bid, I may have put myself into a position where I've gone past the sweet spot and I'm just bidding high. And then I get all this traffic, this overspend, and I say YouTube ads doesn't work. So you can't be just making changes all the time. The other thing is aggressively increasing ad spend. In an ideal world, you would have one campaign, run $10 a day, and things work. You say, hey, you know what? I want to spend $10,000 a day, and it still works. That would be amazing, beautiful. Heck, you probably wouldn't even be watching this video. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So that's a major mistake I see people doing. Another mistake I see in the scaling is, once again, do you have your ducks in a row? Meaning, is your tracking in place? Do you have the best creative possible? Just because you have a creative that it's making your ad profitable, if there are certain other secondary metrics that are not in line or even close to in line, and your cost per click is probably relatively higher than what it should be, then it's probably a time to work on getting a better ad or better creative for your campaign. So make sure your creative is fine, your landing pages are set up properly, and your tracking is working well before you go ahead and go with scaling. Sorry about the interruption, but if you're someone that already has a funnel and you know you want to scale it, we're talking about 1K a day, a couple hundred a day, and you want to take it to 10K a day, then click on our link. What can you expect if you click on the link? You're going to talk to one of our consultants and we're going to see what makes sense for you. If you're someone that is a do-it-yourselfer and you want to learn a system, get on our weekly calls, learn how we come up with creatives, angles, how we do our targeting, how we scale, how we get clients to spending 30, 40K a day, hey, you want to give that information to your media buyer, feel free and ask about our course. However, if you're a little bit more hands-off and you want people that already know what to do and how to go from spending a couple of hundred a day, spending a few $1,000s a day, then also ask about our agency. See if we're the right fit for you, if your funnel can work for YouTube ads. But that's not gonna happen unless you click on the link. So make sure you do that. It's totally free, but this is if you're willing to scale and you already know that you have stuff that works. Now, back to the video at hand. Now, how can you scale these YouTube ad campaigns? Well, you have really two main options. One is to scale vertically, which is literally increasing the budget on the same campaign that you're running. The other one is to scale horizontally, which is to start grabbing your assets, which in this case are your creatives, and let's just say you're already in target CPA, your bidding strategy, applying that to different audiences. But when I say audience, I mean audience segments. It could be topics, it could be keyword targeting, placement targeting, whatever targeting you're doing. So once you have a campaign that is running and is running well, don't expect all the other campaigns to have that same performance. But what you want is, you want to look at most recent data and recent data can be whatever you decide it is. I like to look at last 7 days, including today. I also like to look at today or yesterday's data, whichever is more relevant, depends on the type of product. If my answer to both those questions are, is my ROI where it needs to be? Is it amazing? Yes. Is today's data amazing, the ROI? Yes. Then I decide to increase the budget whenever I am doing these type of things. Now, if that's not the case for whatever reason, but it's still in line, I don't really mess around with the budget vertically. That's when I go horizontally. That's when I look into the information that I have, either through Google Analytics or Google Ads, that tells me, hey, these are the audiences that are most likely to convert. Look at these audiences and try them out. So you start testing, all you're doing is audience testing. And if that audience is working for you, you keep that ad going. You'd be surprised how quickly you can go from a few $100s a day to a few $1,000s a day by following this very simple but effective strategy. Now, whenever you scale, you're always gonna come up problems, whether it's business, whether it's ads, you're gonna have problems. So the question is, what do you do when you have those problems? You start looking, okay, my conversions are not coming through. The first thing you wanna look at is, has anything changed on your offer or site? If you have control of the site, you should know that information. If you don't, if you're doing it for a client, please communicate. A lot of times you'd be surprised the amount of times it's happened. And it doesn't matter what type of company it is. I'm talking about a multi-million-dollar company where, our tracking guy, our developer took off some code or things of that nature. So the first thing I usually do, I check to see if the tracking is working. That's the very first thing I do. The next thing I do is I move forward. I say, hey, did you guys change it? And then they say no, and I'll say, are you sure? Because a lot of times they may be split testing something that you didn't know about. That's the very first thing on the offer side. If that is not the issue, you want to look at what's changing your ads. Have your ad costs gone up? It's very simple. All you have to look at is from the point of when you started to scale, at what point did things start to falter? One bad day is not enough information, but you have 3, 4, 5 days that are bad out of a week, then that's a trend, right? So you start seeing what happened, and then you go back to a point of time of when your ads were working properly, and you compare those stats. What stats are you looking for? You're looking for your ad costs, which is your CPCs, and your ad costs are affected by your CPMs. Did that go up? Did the CPMs go up in general across other YouTube ad accounts as well? Did your CTR go down? Most likely, more times than not, it's usually your CTR. Let's say you had a CTR at 2% and all of a sudden your CTR is at 1% after you've scaled it to a certain level. That's going to increase your ad costs, whether it be 50% or even another 100%. It may double your ad costs. So those are things to look at more times than not. Also, if it's a CPM issue, think of it as, is your audience too small? Or are you trying to push this product at a time when other people are trying to push this product as well, so you have more competition in the market? This can happen usually during the end of quarters. A lot of agencies or companies like to dump a lot of money. So those are things to look at. But to sum it all up, look at your stats now, look at your stats at a time when it was working, and compare the two. And I'm sure you'll find the problem there from the ad side. So let's just say when you are scaling, as I mentioned earlier, I honestly, if my budget's above $500 a day in the campaign, I'm really not gonna push more than 10, 20% on that budget. And if the campaign stops working, I just kill it. It's as simple as that. Keep it as simple as possible. Do not stick to holding on to a campaign because it used to work for you for so long. The only exception to that is the campaign that, let's just say you have a top campaign that has the highest budget. We all have, for as much as we would like to have all our campaigns evenly budgeted out. Sometimes one of your campaigns just works best. What you can do is, a lot of times, if it stops working, I may give it a day or two more, but eventually I'll just relaunch that same audience, add a smaller budget to see if it works again. And you'd be surprised. Let's say a good percentage of the times, the audience still works, but what happens is it has a limit. Certain campaigns, audience combinations work well at $500 a day. Sometimes they work well at $2,000 a day, but every campaign has its limit. Jot that down. And once you get to that point, just leave it be unless you have overwhelming evidence to mess around with the budget and increase on it again. So making changes to the YouTube ad campaigns while you're scaling. Once again, the only change I do is I mess around with the budget very slightly if there's overwhelming evidence that I am crushing my KPIs. I don't start switching out the demographics or adding ads to it. No, whatever other type of experimentation I want to do, I think is just healthy for any type of ad budget. You want to allocate a small percentage, whether it's 10, 20, 30, depends on your risk tolerance. You want to allocate that to testing things in its own separate campaigns on smaller budgets. So let's just say I have new ads, I will test that in other campaigns. Let's just say I have an idea like, hey, desktop works better or mobile works better. Let me try this out. But I won't do that with the campaigns that are running. That's the only type of adjustment. I will not make changes to what's currently running, especially on bigger budget campaigns. Now, those are the tips that I have for scaling YouTube ads in 2022. I guarantee you that if you follow the steps step by step, you will improve your chances of getting your campaigns to spending way more than what you expected in the beginning. So if you want a lot of tips and tricks on YouTube ads, feel free to check out our channel, our videos. It's free to watch. However, you want something a little bit more detailed, maybe it's for yourself, your team, your product, feel free to book a call with us. It's 100% free, and we'll see if we're a right fit for each other.